Yes, sir.
We appreciate everyone being here. We're very fortunate today to have some real leaders here in our state from a number of different sectors, not the least of which is our governor, Rick Perry. We're very pleased to have him here today in the Texas Panhandle. I had the privilege about 26 years ago when Governor Perry and I first came in the legislature together to meet him as we came in, and ever since then he and our lovely First Lady Anita Perry, they've been good friends with Becky, my wife, and I, and we've really enjoyed them and admired them over the years. One quick note is that most of you know that Anita is an alumni of West Texas A&M University, where she went to nursing school, and they have some very strong ties to this part of the country. In fact, the governor related to me not long ago that he used to, when he was waiting for Anita while she was in class, he would go over and occupy himself in the Panhandle Plains Historical Museum, and he loved that museum and spent hours there. So anyway, there's not much I need to say about the governor because you know so much about him. Two superlatives about him. One, he has now served longer than any other governor in the history of Texas. We're very proud of that. And secondly, this is hard to believe, but he's the first governor of Texas who's a graduate of Texas A&M University. Being the father of an Aggie now, I'm very, very proud of that. And so, but anyway, as we look back over the last decade that Governor Perry has led this state, what an exemplary record. And by exemplary, I mean it's an example that other governmental entities could follow. He has reduced regulations. He's brought businesses. He's created new jobs. Texas has been the largest economic engine of job creation really in the world over the last decade. Not only that, but he has not only not raised taxes, we've lowered taxes, and we've done something that seems almost impossible by today's standards, and that is we've balanced the budget within the revenue that we had, and we didn't go into a deficit spending situation, and that's quite an accomplishment. It's no wonder that when you look at that track record over the last few years that his name is being thrown about rather generously now as a possible candidate for President of the United States. He's being urged from all over the country to run. This isn't the forum for me to make any endorsement or anything, but we're hoping that you do, Governor. You've got a lot of friends in Texas, and you've got a lot of friends in this part of the country. So let me introduce our Governor, Rick Perry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And as he shared with you, it's a long-time friendship, and we watched our children grow up, and in some cases get married. And, so it's been a good ride, John. And thank you for being a friend along the way. Always a great privilege and a pleasure to be in Amarillo. Chance to talk to people who are making a difference in a lot of different areas, whether it's over in the ag side of things or whether it's our great university systems that we have up in this part of the state. You all make a difference both locally and across this state, or even nationally, and some of the areas that you all have been engaged in. And it's the efforts of Texas entrepreneurs, whether it's an innovative small business owner, or you're part of a larger, more established job creator that's truly at the heart of the success that we've enjoyed in Texas over this past decade. In Austin, our main job as state leaders is to do everything that we can to maintain the economic climate in which businesses of all sizes can flourish and grow, fully confident that their growth is going to be part of that continued growth in Texas, and that the fiscal restraint that's been showed in Austin is not just a one-time thing. It's ingrained in our state. It's ingrained in the men and women like you, and as one of the newer members of the legislature, and Warren, you, one of the more seasoned. So we really have that fiscal restraint ingrained in our decision-making process in Austin. And to that end, the 82nd legislature balanced a budget that spent $15 billion less than the previous budget, while maintaining the essential services of this state, keeping taxes low, and preserving more than $6 billion in our rainy day fund. My bet is that there was not a governor across the country that would not be very fond to make that statement about their state. And frankly, as this session opened, there was certainly no shortage of voices across the state who were saying that we were going to have to raise taxes, we're going to have to bleed our reserves dry in order to balance our budget. Well, the good news is we ignored those voices, as we've done in the past, Peggy, because we know that higher taxes kill jobs. And it hurts Texas families at the end of the day, with the national economy still in flux and the ongoing prospect of natural disasters. We're just going into that major hurricane season. I pray every day that if we have one, let it be a small one and bring rain. But the fact is, we don't know what the future holds from the standpoint of the natural disasters that we have to deal with. And we know that money in the rainy day fund, Mr. Chairman, may be the lifesaver for us in the years ahead if there is some catastrophe or some national economy continues to stay in a decline. So we held the line on taxes and balanced the budget exactly the way we said we'd do. We prioritized. We cut spending. We tightened our belts, just like you all have had to do in your business or your personal lives. And in so doing, we followed the clear directions laid out by the voters of the state, who told us in no uncertain terms last November, we want that budget balanced, and we don't want our taxes raised. At the heart of any successful venture, public or private, lies the necessity of making choices. Attempting to avoid tough decisions only results in disaster down the road, both in terms of red ink and in terms of a government trying to do too much for far too many things. And frankly, you end up doing far too many things not particularly well when you have that mentality that you have to be all things to all people. And in Texas, we've had a pretty simple approach. And that is, we make the tough decisions. And that's made all the difference in the world. There have been, front page of USA Today, story, want a job, go to Texas. I'm not going to sit here and go through all the different stories that, literally in the last month, about how magnificent Texas has been relative to the rest of the country. Who created over half the jobs during the decade of 2000. And it's been those tough decisions that these individuals behind me that have made. Keeping control of our state spending. Employers, employees, families in Texas get to keep more of their money because Warren, you and Chairman Pitts and others made tough decisions. Texas has been the nation's job creation capital for the past decade. As I said earlier, nearly half of America's new jobs created in the past 2 years were created right here in this state. That's according to the Dallas Fed. Generally, they're a very reliable source. It's time for Washington, D.C. to take a little lesson from Texas. And that's what I call for. And the 82nd legislature passed a resolution urging the adoption of a United States balanced budget amendment to our Constitution. Not only would this provide some much needed fiscal responsibility in Washington, it also forced them to prioritize, like we did right here in the state of Texas, focus on the true priorities of the people, hopefully do a better job of meeting those priorities. As an example that hits close to home, this session, Chairman Pitts and his counterpart in the Senate, Steve Ogden, they approved $152 million for continued border security. That's a federal responsibility that Washington refuses to adequately address. By making necessary cuts, capping what they'll spend in the future, and moving us towards a balanced budget amendment, Congress could remove the uncertainty of this country's financial health and footing on the world stage. As employers here in Texas can tell you, removing uncertainty can certainly open the door to more opportunity, more hiring. I commend our legislature for the hard work that they put in over the past 6 months and for making sometimes very difficult choices. In the end, we now have a budget that is in place that positions Texas for continued economic growth and job creation, which means more times of prosperity for families in this state. And that's something that we can all be proud of. And now I'd like to bring up someone who can share a great deal of credit for everything that we accomplished this last session of the legislature, particularly on the budgeting side, and that is the House Appropriations Chairman, Jim Pitts. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I want to tell you, when we first started this process, which was about a year ago today, the end of July, we started realizing what a tough job this was going to be to balance our budget. But we could do it, and we could do it without any new taxes, without using the rainy day fund, and we would live within the means while still providing essential governmental services to the people of Texas. But Governor, I want to tell you, and I say this, I'm not saying this in front of you, I say it all in my district, we would not have been able to do it without your help. I guess I could call you coach or whatever, but you were always on the sideline, you were always there to guide us. And when I needed your help, the coach was always there. And Governor, I want to thank you for making it possible, because we cut $15 billion from our budget. Many people said couldn't be done. It wasn't easy. But because of those cuts, we were able to balance our budget, and we were able to provide for community college funding, for financial aid for students, for our public schools. Texas economic growth continues to be a model for all of the other states around this country. And we can only continue to do so if we have our financial house in order. Passing a balanced budget was not easy, and there are always worthwhile programs that cannot be funded. But ultimately, living within our means is the only option available to many millions of Texans, families, and that is the way we approached it this session. So again, Governor, thank you for your help, and it's really great to be here to finally see a product that I worked on for over a year to be signed. Thank you.
Greatly appreciate your patience during that process. Jim Pitts is one of the really most patient and thoughtful members, and along with, again, I want to say thanks. He couldn't be with us today, Senator Steve Ogden, who has served very notably in the period of time that he's been there, and obviously a major player in the crafting of our budget. Next up is an individual who knows a thing or two about fiscal responsibility. Americans for Prosperity's Peggy Venable.
Rainy Day Fund, our Texas legislators this session balanced the state budget without raising taxes, and they did it in 170 days. Congress, to pay attention. You know, the fact is, Congress and the federal government could learn from the Lone Star State. And it's no accident that Texas is a real beacon of fiscal responsibility and the top state for job creation. It's really thanks to strong conservative leadership and the policies that create an environment to grow prosperity and job growth. Let's face it, when it comes to leadership, governors cannot simply vote present. like U.S. senators can. In the states, the buck stops on the governor's desk. So I'm really honored to be able to participate in this historic bill signing. Texas taxpayers are really the big winners this session. The legislature did the heavy lifting. They created a state budget which funds the essential services, spends no more than is available, and did it without raising taxes. You know, that Governor Perry truly did lay down the gauntlet early on in the session. He said that they weren't going to raid the rainy day funds, that he wasn't going to approve tax increases. So truly the roadmap was laid out, but it was hard work. Texas families will benefit from this. You know, Texas legislators worked to rein in truly overspending in some areas. You may hear that education or other areas got shortchanged, not so. Public education in Texas got $3 billion more than it did in the current biennium for the next 2 years. Education got 57% of the state budget. It is still a high priority to Texas. And over 100,000 members of Americans for Prosperity are really pleased with the action the legislature took and wish that other states were doing the same. And frankly, we call on Congress to propose and submit to the states just what Texas passed, and that is a balanced budget amendment asking for a constitutional amendment that all the states can approve. Why? Because America's $14.3 trillion in debt. The federal stimulus really wasted nearly $1 trillion and didn't fix our economy. And a child born today owes more than $46,000 as a result of Washington's overspending. It's clear we just can't trust Congress to solve this crisis. We must unleash individuals and state leaders and legislators to work toward that solution. Texas has taken a bold step in approving and moving forward on this. Congress and the federal government could, again, benefit from studying this Texas model. We are the top state for business creation, the top state for businesses relocating into our state. We're the top state for tort reform, and we export more than any other state. Frankly, this isn't an accident. The Texas success story is truly a result of strong conservative leadership and citizens who are engaged and actively participating in the process. You know, good policies truly do create an environment for prosperity and job growth. And while Texas is the beacon for fiscal responsibility in the country, we didn't get there with leaders voting present, but with leadership willing to stand up against special interests and for taxpayers and make tough decisions. I thank you, Governor Perry, and the leaders here for standing firm and standing up for Texas taxpayers.
And, last but certainly not least is a constitutional scholar and a guy we've enjoyed working with through the years, the President and CEO of Liberty Institute, Kelly Shackford. Kelly, thanks.
Washington, D.C. has been on a spending spree, and they've been spending our children and our grandchildren's money. I am so glad that Texas is not Washington, D.C.
Amen.
And I want to thank the governor and the legislature for giving an example really to the rest of the country that you can balance your budget without raising taxes. And you know, fiscal responsibility protects families, it brings greater prosperity, and more than that, it protects liberty and freedom. By not ballooning the government and growing a larger and larger government that will therefore crowd out the freedoms of its citizens. And you know, a lot of times people are asking, they're saying, why are all these people, why are all these businesses coming to Texas? Well, the answer is pretty simple. For freedom, for liberty, for family, for prosperity. I mean, that's the American dream. And I think maybe Texas is going to lead the way back to that. Thank you.
Let's get these bills signed, okay? Good work, Sharon. Good on you, sir. Oh, wait a minute, let's see here. Warren, you get this one. Number 2 guy. And John, you and 4 are going to be available for this one here. This is our balanced budget amendment to get our friends in D.C. on track, hopefully. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. God bless you. Listen, thanks again for all of you being out here today and for opening up this venerable old business.